At the end of it, Coquette?
Want me to count five?
It's
Such a slim, skinny little thing. So under here, right here.
For heaven's sakes. Wonder.
Let me count down to five. Okay, you've got 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Maida Jones, and welcome to Colby Memorial Temple and our adult Lyceum. Unfortunately, Pauline Gold was too sick to come today, but fortunately, Reverend Diane Davis is here to replace her for the day. And you're in for a treat. You've never heard her speak or gone to her classes, which I recommend, but she's fun and she's informative and she's a very good teacher. So without further ado, I'm going to present to you Reverend Diane Davis.
Good morning. All of you got a program, the pink, because what I would like to do today is take our principles that we recite on Sundays and at other events. And these are the principles that a lot of the spiritualist churches all over communities, etc., recognize and utilize as a focus for what we do and what we believe. So in doing this today, I'm also a person who gets kind of playful. Sorry. And so I did not look up my puns and jokes on Google this morning for you. So I just wanted you to know you were safe. However, what I did watch were baby panda bears playing. And they were so adorable and so cute. And one of the compilations of different videos that they had made was one of the caretakers, or whatever they call them, zookeepers, trying to give them some sort of mouth, probably medication or something. And there were 2 baby panda bears that were all over him while he was trying to do it. Now, that is something that things that make me giggle, things that bring joy, things that give you an opportunity just for a moment to let loose of whatever you've been thinking about, whatever you've been working on, whatever you've been experiencing in life. And in my opinion, we all need those moments. I wasn't stressed in watching. I was just really ready to come here and to talk. And it's nice to be able to talk. Pauline, who was going to be here, her voice has gone to Boise, Idaho, I think, on vacation. So that's the reason she's not here today. We believe in infinite intelligence, and that's going to be the first principle in that pink flyer that you received, or if you have a hymnal. And this isn't something that you have to memorize, but I've been in spiritualism since, long time. And so I can practically recite them in my sleep. And sometimes we get to the point where we're talking words, but we're not living what we're doing. We're not paying attention to its meaning. We're not embracing it in terms of the kind of ideas or understandings it provides. The beauty of these principles in my life, and the beauty of these principles to me, is that they provide hope. And a lot of religions and philosophies have beautiful sayings, and lots of books have been written. And I mean, this is not a criticism of any of that. It's the fact that There are so many things in our lives that say, if you don't do this, you won't have that. And none of these principles say that. All of these principles say you focus on this and you have opportunity to have a more expansive life than you have now. That doesn't mean now is a criticism. It doesn't mean now is a poor idea or thinking, but your soul wants to create, and it wants to create joyfully, and it wants to create impeccably and quickly. And what happens so often for any of us is the fact that we face challenges, changes, shifts, moments, pain. You can name all of those emotions, but we face those things regardless of what we've read, what we've done, how much we meditated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things about the first principle about we believe in infinite intelligence, it's to recognize, excuse me, that there's an infinite opportunity, and it's in this wonderful thing called space. And what happens here in this thing called space is I'm not talking about woo-woo, and I'm not talking about aliens, and I'm not talking about out of this universe, but yeah, it is out of this universe as well. But right here where my arms and hands are moving are subatomic particles, are atoms bouncing on each other, color and sound. Now, I believe you were all exposed to that in about 7th, 8th grade, but that is the nature of air, isn't it? So what else is here? Well, we don't know, but every day in this community and every day in our religion, there are people that are exploring this. And in exploring this, it's creating opportunity to expand self, and it also expands opportunities to extend that to others. And in extending that to others, we get to express to others as mediums, healers, counselors, ministers. We get to extend to people the understanding that number 2 principle of the fact that we believe that the phenomena of nature is an expression, and that your body is an expression of infinite intelligence. And so right off the bat, the first 2 principles have woven an encouragement for you that no matter what you do, no matter what you face, no matter what you experience, no matter where you go, you have infinite possibilities that are available, and infinite thought processes as well. We marvel that we are a religion, but we are so much more. I have always had an affinity for the philosophy because for me, it's an expansion of self. I'm going to knock that off, aren't I? Anyway, but we're also a science, and that to me is exceptionally significant right now in our humanity, is the fact that if we have the ability to sit with somebody and talk to them about themselves, talk to them about their life, talk to them about their past, talk to them about their future, talk to them about some unseen things that may or may not be collectively understood or validated. That is a potential that is there. So we have infinite potentials available for any of us at any time. Our third principle is we affirm that a correct understanding and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. Well, yes. You know, the fascinating thing, I don't get cable at my home. So I do the remote roulette thing. Most days I'm realizing how I don't really listen or watch much for any length of time anymore. I'm so busy looking. I'm doing it on my car radio too. None of you do that, where you're listening to a song and then suddenly you think, oh, there might be a different one that I really will like on this channel. You don't do that? Okay, well, I'll get serious. So we have opportunity to constitute a religion right here. We can follow it, but the beautiful thing is we can't follow an entity, we can't follow a person. We're following ourselves and the understanding. And when we're following ourselves, it means that we can unite with people from all walks of life, people of all planes of reality. We can unite if we want to, but it is a choice. You have a choice on how you choose to be happy or sad. And it doesn't mean that if life has challenges and you're not feeling so tip-top excited that you're wrong. It means you have challenges, and it means that things aren't so tip-top. What you do have, though, is you have a hope, and that hope is the thing that is supplied to know that there's opportunity for your expansion and your mind constantly. The beauty of that is that all of us have this. It's not just for those people who, in the Bible, it talks in Corinthians about spiritual gifts. So a lot of people think you have to have a gift in order to receive some benefit from life. And I say, all you need to do is find out that soul of you that wants to create and embrace it and discover what you want and what you feel drawn to do. If you need guidance, if you need a sense of direction, that's one thing that we can supply here in bulk. All right, don't comment on the bulk thing. But we have many of us, and we're assorted sizes, shapes, attitudes, backgrounds. The woman who introduced me is, are you multilingual or bilingual? Yeah. And I bet you didn't know that about her. I did. I did. Just saying. And there are a gazillion things that the majority of people here don't know about me, and I'm one of the long-range residents. So you get to explore who you are with all of your talents, your skills, your capabilities. And the fourth principle is we affirm that the existence and personal identity of an individual continues after the change called death. What does that mean to you? Often there is a fear of what's going to happen at death. And death is not a punishment. It's just a thing. And it's just opportunity in life to continue on. The soul of you is a forever thing. Do you hear it? Forever? It may not express on this planet, but the soul of you is a forever thing. And the thing about that, the thing about the thing, is that we're not really taught that it's a natural process. But look at nature and watch nature. Things are born and things begin to disintegrate and change. Something new crops up and something new occurs. Watch, just watch. The fifth principle is that we affirm communication with the so-called dead as a fact, and it's scientifically proven through the phenomena of spiritualism. Thelma Moss in the 60s, 50s, 60s, did a lot of experiments And she worked a great deal to help people understand how thought could move items. And I believe she was in California at UCLA or one of the big schools in South California, Southern California. And those types of things have occurred. So when we talk about being a science, it's because of the fact that with the ability of thought and with the ability to expand thought, there is unlimited opportunities. We see it here with healing. You experience it in your own when you have a new thought, a new idea, a great aha that occurs, and suddenly there's a spark of creativity or a new idea. I have that a lot around chocolate. I'm just saying. I said that one time and ended up with 3 chocolate Easter bunnies on my back door. Okay, no, you don't have to bring me one of those. Thank you, though. We also talk about the golden rule. That's number 6. And the golden rule for me is I have it a little differently. I have a lot of quotes in my bathroom on the mirror and actually all over my house, but I have one and it just says, act as you would have others react to you. So the golden rule, whatsoever you would do, is an opportunity for you to explore your own inner ethics, how you deal with life, and how you extend it to humanity. That's a very common thing to understand. It's not always something exhibited. Some people fudge, fudge, well, that's chocolate, isn't it? Some people like to bend the truth to fit themselves. You know these people. They're in all walks of life. There is a place, even as little children, that we learn to do it. And how we learn to do it is we don't want to upset the grown-ups. Isn't that the way? We don't want to upset them. We don't want to challenge. We don't want to cause problems. And so when somebody says, did you do a particular thing? It's often very common for a little one to go, huh-uh. And if you're one that was on the straight and narrow, great. But there's a lot of people out here that are still desiring to become more. And yet they were little children as well. So the golden rule is important. And it's important to me that how you respond to life is yours. We have a lot of different people giving readings here in our community, and every one of them is unique. Background, capability, talents, imagery, all of it. And every one of them has a different set of ethics. You get to discover, if you do go to see somebody, what that is that resonates with you and what you enjoy. When we talk about the golden rule, we're not talking about should. We're not talking about the fact that if you don't do it, somehow you're going to be condemned for life. We're talking about it as a place that you can stand that will give you hope, that will allow you to have more of an inner freedom to discover those thoughts, those ideas, and those experiences that are so meaningful in your life and your life to come. The 7th principle is my favorite because natural law is my favorite. But it's about the phenomena of nature. Natural law has been something that has been taught in spiritualism, and it's been talked about in spiritualism for over 130 years. This community was established in 1894. In 1894, things were a lot different. You didn't have cell phones. You didn't have the computer. We didn't have Google, and I wasn't there yet. So what happened is they were thinkers and talkers. They could congregate and they could talk amongst themselves about life. They could talk about thought. They could talk about life after death. It wasn't just about seances, which most people think that that's all we do. No, but natural law was just an expression, and that could be truth. It could be cosmic consciousness. There's all kinds of labels you can give it. But what it is the core of you and how you function and how you deal with life. And nature provides such a great example. You know, it's amazing with the weather patterns and all the changes that are happening. And all the changes that are happening. And I feel like the plants are out there going, huh? Because of any confusion or uncertainty. However, one thing that I think that is beautiful is the adaptation. My azaleas didn't bloom in January, they just came out. Does that mean that that's wrong or bad? No, it's just life. So how much of life are you able to observe and participate in and flow with, and maybe keep your sense of humor and joy? And how are you able to adapt and function with all the shifts that are going on in our society? We here in this community have a whole bunch of activity going on externally. There's a lot of growth, development. There's a lot happening out there. And a lot of it has great influence on what's happening in here. And a lot of it has an influence in what's happening in here because it affects every human being, whether, excuse me, whether it's a conscious recognition or whether it's something that you're just sort of aware of. I'm aware of attention and static. Now, a lot of people would say, no, I don't think so, Diane. And that's okay too. But in my sensitivity, that's what I feel. And a part of it is because there are a lot of people trying to adapt, trying to adjust, trying to be okay, and yet they're not okay. There's a lot of people going further into debt. There's a lot of people wanting to buy houses and not being able to because of the exorbitant prices. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. So whatever you grew up with, whatever you were exposed to when you were really little, may be very different now as to what's occurring. So when we talk about in Principle 7 about the phenomena of nature, it's about the recognition of being pliable, being flexible. Those azaleas, they've been with me for 27 years. And prior to that, they belonged to the previous owner of where I live. The plant itself has spread out. It's not up, it's out. The gardener is not a real heavy raker person. Not a gardener person. I have a sign in my yard that says, free weeds, pull your own. I have indigenous whatever growing there. I mean that very sincerely. But the azaleas are blooming and they're this hot pink magenta. So when I walk by them, I just go, oh, you're so beautiful. And then there's a dwarf azalea that's up against the house under the bathroom window, and it's striped. And it's been moved, transferred to 4 places in 20 years. And the one right next to it that should be a regular azalea, but I thought it was a dwarf azalea, and it's not. Uh-oh. Well, it started blooming, and then looking down, you know, the little buds when they're sticking out of the green leaves? There's a whole bunch of them on there. So I walked by and said, this is so exciting. And it happens every year. But this year it's later than it was. Is that wrong or bad? No. How flexible are you in your own life? How flexible are you to discover things and find joy in what is instead of looking at what was and what you think should be? How much are you giving yourself an opportunity to live the life that will bring you more joy and hope? It doesn't mean you have to get rid of all the people or all the experiences or what you're doing with life. But what it does offer is for you to become very discerning about your own choices. A lot of people have a lot of things happen. We all have things happen in our life, and some of those things feel like they are out of our control. And sometimes they are. But sometimes when we recognize that all of those choices that we've made, there's never been a flaw or a fault of what you did, said, or you think you should have done. You can spend your whole life doing shoulda, woulda, coulda. Or you can get in the now and you can recognize that, wow, I've got all this infinite possibility. The eighth principle is that we affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any human soul here or hereafter. There are so many people who are listening and watching, reading, thinking that if they don't do something specific, that they're going to burn in hell. Did you know that? Were you exposed to that? And I fortunately wasn't in my youth. But that occurs, doesn't it? It occurs. Are we going to complain about it? No. But what we do get to do is discern. That comes back to your personal ethics. That comes back to you. That becomes where we start living what we talk about. And it also has a lot to do with understanding that anything you said, you know, there's times when I've said stuff with people and then I've immediately wanted to take the words back. You didn't ever do that? Well, I didn't have any chocolate to keep my mouth busy. But all of us have had experiences that we recognize we either don't want to do again. And instead of saying I shouldn't have done it, is what about thinking that maybe it had a benefit to it because you gained the insight of what you wouldn't do again? Pretty neat. What do you think the infinite provides? Thought? Yes. Creativity? You got it. Infinite possibilities? You have them. So the last principle that we often acknowledge, talk about, is that the gift of prophecy and healing are divine attributes. Well, yes, they are, and everyone has them. Does everyone use them? No. Does everyone acknowledge them? No. Is that right or wrong? Doesn't matter. It's choice. So within spiritualism, to me, there is a sense of hope. And that hope is that in your life, you're going to add to you constantly. And in doing that addition or expansion, you're going to have opportunities. Are you going to blow a few of them in terms of mess them up? You bet. Did you ever burn the cookies? Well, I did. It was really sad. They were chocolate chip. and I used the Toll House recipe. I know. But I went to the grocery store and bought some. So, what's in your life? Because in spiritualism, we have a wonderful opportunity for everybody to feel more hope and joy. Are you doing that? Does it mean that you have to participate and become a medium or a healer? No. Does it mean you can? Sure. And there are all different ways to do it. Some are here in our community. We have a curriculum for education, and then there's a lot out there. But you have choice of how you affiliate, and you have choice of how you associate, and you have ethics that have a chance to combine with the ethics of others to produce all that you are and more. I'm not the person I will be in 2 months' time. No, I'm not having a tummy tuck and plastic surgery. I'm just saying. But what I am is adding to my life constantly. New ideas, new thinking, new opportunity, new emotions. How do those new emotions come to you? Moments. The moments of your life are tied end to end. They always are and always have been. You've created an incredible tapestry that is you. And you're adding to that tapestry all the time. And yet, if you think that that can only happen because of a spirit that lives outside of you, no. Let that be an addition to you. Let that be an expansion for you. Let that be an understanding to have, that always remember that you have a wonderful spirit that's extending itself and helping your soul create out of joy constantly. It's an opportunity. I thank you for being here this morning, and I am happy to welcome questions if you have them. Does anybody have a question? Oh dear, it was the chocolate chip cookie thing, didn't it? Made you hungry? So one other thing I want to tell you about this community and Lyceum. Lyceum is a Greek term. There were Sunday schools, or there were schools that often met on hillsides, and people would get together. This was a time when there wasn't formal education necessarily, and if it was usually in a religious context. But Lyceum became the term that is used in spiritualist communities and churches all over the world. Lyceum here in our community was started many, many years ago, long before I was, I'm not going to say born because I think I was, but we had people who took hold of the thought and the idea and nurtured it and expanded it, wanting all of you and others to have some little class or some little exposure to us, to what we think, to who we are, and what we do. So Ralph and Audra Cutlip lived over on McKinley Street, and they were very involved, and they were very involved in getting the Lyceum pushed forward. Audra was very active in another camp in New York called Lilydale. And she created the Spotlight, which it was called, which was a formal little publication for Lyceum. And it was known to be for children because it was felt that children could benefit. We had a family here in our community, the Hyers, James and Charlotte Hyers, and their home at the time was right here on the corner of Emil Road and Stevens Street, right at the end here at the time. And all four of their children took natural law classes with Reverend Eloise Page, who we have a garden in her memory. Those children sat in the classes and learned about life. They learned about the effects of their attitudes and actions. They learned about healing. They learned about the mind and thought. They learned about doing more in life. So over the years, and these are just a few people, but over the years, spiritualism has had opportunity to touch a lot of people. And what people do with it is their business. But the fascinating thing is, you're always going to have choice. And if you want some guidelines that will give you the hope of it, come on down. And thank you so much.